Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. Tonight we have with us in studio Mr. Fred Kennedy. Fred, how are
Hello,
you? How
I'm
are
marvelous.
you?
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm so happy that you have time to speak with me. You know what? I want to ask you. I've been watching your daily Dole Whip review, and that's pretty funny with the kids. I think that's awesome. And I see people are asking if the kids get to try the Malibu.
No, oh, we don't. No, there's none of that. Although, I let my oldest have a sip of a Manhattan once, and he was like
Oh.
disgusted with it, and he was like, "Ugh, alcohol, gross." And I'm like, "That's right. You remember that?"
So how old are they? Wilford and Atticus, right?
Yeah, they're 9 and 7 now.
Oh,
Their
wow.
their
Time has
little brains
flown.
are turning on, and they're asking questions, and they're doing stuff. It's pretty great.
Yeah. So how has it been with COVID-19?
Oh, they think it's
Kids.
great. They love it. They don't have to go to school. They hang out. Now that they're going back to school, they're like getting annoyed. And my oldest this morning had this big, like, I want to do homeschooling and I don't want to go to school. And it's like, you want to do homeschooling because you think it's going to be like in the beginning where you sat in front of a computer for like 2 hours and then that's it. Now, the homeschooling, the online learning, the way they set it up is you're in front of a screen at like 8:30 in the morning and you go until 3. It's and you get a short little breaks here and there, but it's not what it was. It's legitimately difficult and he'd be miserable doing that too. So
Yeah.
you're
So
going to
I
school,
think that you
kid.
think it's better for them to obviously be in class, like even though isn't it a smaller class size because of COVID too, right?
The class size, okay, so it's kind of weird. They staggered the start and they have not all the students in at the same time, but technically the class sizes are the same. Now that's supposed to change. I think next week, at least in our district, all the students are going to be back in class, but more than a quarter of the students at my son's school aren't there anymore. So there's a bit more space in the classrooms than there was before. But everything is an experiment right now. Everyone's just learning about what they're doing and we're reacting as we go. And that's really the best case scenario. I mean, it's not the best situation to be in right now. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it's and when I say this, like I feel like you're taking this side. I'm not taking a side. Just I know that it's not as bad as it could be. So until there's another big outbreak, I'm very confident in the way the teachers at my son's school are handling things.
I mean, this is I honestly I see that a lot of parents are now saying that they would rather their kids learn at home. And so now, the TDSB has to, plan for that. And I think, I don't know, it seems to me like this should have been something that probably they should have started looking into it since maybe March or April, because this is a lot. Like,
It's
it's
pretty
not like,
big, man.
yeah,
It's I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I haven't been following it as intently as a lot of other people have. I got my fingers in a lot of pots, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, but my wife has been following it very closely, and then because she works for Canadian Blood Services, so all the medical stuff she's really up to date on. And
yeah.
so after the kids go to bed, she usually like unloads on me about everything that I need to know. So I'm confident that people are doing as good as they can, but I'm also very confident that schools will be closed before Christmas.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly feel like, just in my opinion, that maybe this is not the year for kids to be in school, but they do need that social interaction. I don't care what anybody says. I think that as a kid myself, and I love school. I'm not going to deny it. I'm a big nerd and I love school. School is my place where I could be myself, and I just finished school myself not too long ago, and doing the virtual classroom, that's for me, I think it's a different experience altogether. I mean, we did everything online and I did see my coordinator, but I feel like I have not met them. I met them on camera. I haven't
Yeah,
even met my mentor, like my classmates. I think the option to have your camera off, like, it's crazy because one of my classmates, we just saw her on camera for the last class. I was like, wow, I haven't seen you all semester. Like, this is crazy, you know?
It's yeah, my kids are social butterflies. They need that interaction. They need to be going to the class and they're stoked to see all their friends. And they don't hate school. They hate getting ready for school,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense because I don't like wearing a mask. And every time I am able to take it off, I'm very happy. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like going to the mall and walking around the mall with a mask on. I don't, some people say they're used to it. I don't know how you can get used to wearing a mask all the time. I don't know.
Talk to Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Bruce Wayne, come in now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, let's talk to all the characters who's have to wear a mask, like Shape of Water, like he had to wear that costume. Like even anyone, like Planet of the Apes wearing a costume all day long
Yeah, but
while
dude,
you're
they're
on
getting paid
set,
millions of dollars to do it. I'll do it.
right?
Give me the money. I'll do it. I'll do it. No problem.
Now you have to do it for your own safety. It's like, oh my God. I'm like, when's 2020 over? Like and even though I say when's 2020 over, doesn't mean that 2021 is going to change the whole outcome, right? So
Absolutely. It
yeah,
doesn't change at midnight, man.
I know. So tell me, we're talking about like, COVID-19, your kids adjusting to school life. You're married. So how long have you been married?
Well, for like a decade now.
Ooh, a
More than a
decade. That's a
decade.
long time.
Now I think about it. Let me do the math here. 12 years? Yep, 12. 12 years.
Oh my God, you've been married from when I graduated from university. 12
Yep.
years. Yeah.
Well, the big
Wow.
12.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we started dating a few months after she finished university. She just went through
Nice.
like, that classic, like you had your university relationship and then your big breakup and then your
Yeah.
big freedom moment. We met right around her big freedom moment and I ruined her big freedom moment.
Oh my
She
gosh.
ruined
How
my
could you
big
do
freedom moment
that?
too. I was like, I had gone through like a big breakup and was single and like the worst guy for like 2 years, and I was loving it being the worst guy. And
How are you the
then,
worst guy? Tell us all the dirt, Fred. Come on. We want to
well,
know.
I worked. Okay, so I was working in radio,
Yeah.
and I was also hosting a wet T-shirt contest at a massive, like one of the biggest bars in Edmonton. So I was riding high from my notoriety of being a broadcaster and media personality in like a medium-sized city. And I was also hosting this wet t-shirt contest at a massive bar. So I was the sleaziest guy ever for like a solid 2 years. And like an unapologetic sleazy guy, not a liar, not like dishonest or anything, just everything that you're thinking, that's what I was. And I was loving it. And then my wife came along and ruined everything.
Oh, she settled you down. Like you just eventually you have to stop the bad boy image. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not even a bad boy. I wasn't ever bad because I'm a
Were
weak
you
fella.
honest though? Did you tell the girl?
Absolutely,
Oh,
100%. We're all grown ups here.
oh,
That's as long as you're not being like a liar,
yeah. So there's different kinds of guys. There's the sleazy guy. There's okay. So the typical. There's the bad boy who always has to like get himself in trouble, and then there's the guy who's just a player.
I think
Yeah.
sleazy and greasy are very different.
Yeah.
To me,
So
greasy is somebody who's dishonest and lies to people. Sleazy is just somebody who they're a free floater with their genitalia. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I wasn't lying to anybody. I wasn't saying, let's go on a cruise next weekend. Huzzah. No, it wasn't anything like that. I was just having a good, consensual time with many people.
You know what? I think the fact that you're in radio has it's kind of like being a DJ, isn't it? Like all the
Yeah.
girls
Oh,
like
well,
flock to you and
so I
stuff.
was working at this bar and I was an expediter, which means my job at the bar was to wander around the bar and make sure everyone was having a good time. And if they weren't having a good time, like I bought them a round of drinks, did a shot with them, and I moved on. So I had like superpowers at the bar. And it was the best gig ever because I could just wander around and buy drinks and talk to people, make sure everyone was having fun. they just wanted somebody who would be like an ambassador for the bar itself. And that's really all my job was, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I did for like years at that bar in Edmonton, and it was a rad time. And then I met my wife there,
Oh, you
and
met
she
her
was
in
there.
Edmonton.
Yeah, I've been out in
Oh,
Edmonton. She was
my
there to
goodness. Maybe
support
I
a
need to
friend.
move to Edmonton to find love too. Like, screw Toronto.
Yeah, maybe.
I know. I get
Well,
to
you
be
know
here
what?
forever.
It's an angry, poor place now because now like the oil sands are in the toilet and everyone's angry. I haven't
I
been.
think,
I haven't like I
I
haven't
think,
lived there for a long time, so I can't really attest to its virtue. But I can say they've still got lots of really tight buddies that live out there. So yeah.
yeah. Any of them single, Fred?
Uh, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of them are single,
Maybe
and
if
some of
they're
them work
listening
on
to
the oil
this.
patch too. They got that union oil patch money.
They got money that might
Yeah,
help me out. Money's not everything, though. It's
it's
for me, it's
not.
about personality, and you have that personality too. So, for those who are listening, I got Fred Kennedy on the line with me here, and he is the afternoon host at Q107. What time is your show on?
2 to 7
2 to 7, right? Prime time. For the drive home or the drive, like, depending
somewhere.
on where you're going, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Prime
wasn't that
traffic.
your time
Yeah.
at the Edge too? Like, you did afternoons on the Edge for a long time as well.
Oh yeah, I came to Toronto in the summer of 2009 to work at the Edge, and I did drive there for a few years. Then I did mornings for 2 years. Then I went back to afternoons, and then it was just like 2 years ago. It was just time to go. I'd been on the Edge for a decade at that point, and um, I was the oldest guy, and they were moving into a more like youth focused sound, and it was just they wanted to make a break, and they didn't want me to leave the company, so they had an opening at Q. So I just went across the halls and started working at Q, and it was time because I was the oldest dude on the station by 9 years, and it was like it's just time to go, man.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
think
it was the right time for me.
a decade is a long time to be
Yeah,
any radio station, and no, I think I've definitely a lot of people are your fan of the Edge. I remember listening to your show in the afternoon sometime, and you coming to Humber and speaking to the class. I don't know if you remember that, but
I
they were
do.
all like, yeah.
I do remember that because I don't talk at classes very often, and so I remember that trip specifically. I
Yeah.
don't do that very often, not because I don't want to, but because I've got a lot of stuff that goes on during the day. Like that was when I was doing Teletoon and stuff too. So I was like every day was from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. was very tight. Like there wasn't a lot of wiggle room there.
So you're not only doing a radio show, but you're voicing characters for Teletoon as well, and then your dad. And so,
Yeah,
are you still with Teletoon? Are you still doing?
no, I don't do that anymore. There's something that might be happening with Showcase soon, but that's still very up in the air due to COVID. You know, nothing is certain in these uncertain times.
Yes, and the unforeseeable future of
Yeah, so
COVID-19.
that there might be something coming down there, but
Yeah.
now I'm doing like syndication, so my show is on in other markets in the country, which is, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of syndication, but I realize that's kind of the way uh, the business is going, and if
So
my
you're
show is
for
going to
all
pay,
live you like this is a syndicated show, you know?
yeah, and it's frustrating because I'm not the biggest fan of the concept, but I understand that that is the way the business is going in order to survive. And if it's working, it's frustrating because I feel like anything I say that could be positive about the syndication market, voice tracking, whatever, I'm only saying because it's working for me and that's the perspective it's coming from. But at the end of the day, I need to stay employed. So if they ask me to do it, I'm going to do it, and that's the end of the line, you know.
Yeah.
And the shows that I'm doing, like I'm doing as much local content as I can in those markets, and the ratings are doing pretty well in those markets. And they're places that I've been before and have worked before. I'm doing evenings for Power 97 in Winnipeg, and that was the first metered market that I ever worked in, like more than 20 years ago. Well, that's actually with a market that I got the name Fearless Fred in. So I don't mind being on the air in Winnipeg because I have a soft spot for the city of Winnipeg.
Well, we love the name Fearless Fred.
I hate the name Fearless Fred.
I like it. I always know it. I'm just like, oh yeah, there's Fearless Fred. And
It
I'm pretty
stands
sure
out.
you want to get away from that. But that, I mean, you've been on like the edge for 10 years and like it's just like Josie Die. You know what I mean? Like certain names you just can't take away from them. You know what I mean?
That
What
lineup.
are you trying to coin a new phrase now? You want to take away from Fearless Fred and
At
do
this
something?
point, no. At this point, there's nothing I can do about it. I've accepted it. It's my mantle that I have to wear. But like the name came from when I was a stunt boy working for the morning show in Winnipeg, for BJ and Hal. And they were, Hal Anderson is still on the air in Winnipeg. He does afternoons at CGOB. And the thing about this, like it's every business is the same, but media is very much, there's a lot of things that are unwritten rules. It's like golf, you know, like golf has all kinds of unwritten rules. Like you don't talk when someone's having their backswing. You don't chip when you're on the green, you know, things like that. And radio, especially at that time, you did a lot of on location work. Smaller markets, you do a lot more on location work. And it's all about getting to know the clients and learning how to interact with them and learning how to, you know, like we always in the term, and this is a bit derogatory, learning how to hand job the clients the right way to make them feel like they're special and the best. And Hal Anderson is a guy that really took me under his wing and taught me all those lessons. But he also had no problems putting me in my place when I got too big for my britches. And you need somebody like that who will keep you in check, especially when you're young. Because when you're young and you get a taste of success, you have no comparison for it, and you let it get out of control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he kept me in line. And because of him, I never sort of fell off the wagon, so to speak. And I learned a lot from that guy. And when I left Winnipeg, it was the things that he had taught me that I feel got me in a position where I was able to go to Edmonton, which was bigger, and succeed there, and then eventually come to Toronto and succeed here. And there's things that he taught me then that I still use to this day. Like when you look at yourself and you look at who you are now, you really are a tapestry of experiences and lessons that other people have given you, like influence, little things that you just pick up that you didn't even realize you picked up until years later when you're sort of reflecting on them, you know?
Well, they do say that it takes 10 years to perfect anything. Now, the only reason I'm quoting this is you said someone taught you this. So my professor at Humber, Neil Mather, hello, Neil, if you're listening, he said that for anyone to be a professional in any industry, it takes you 10 years. So I feel that I guess you're at that point because you were at the edge for 10 years, and that's when they say you've had enough practice and you could probably teach now other people. Maybe you could even be a professor at the college level because you've been working in the industry for 10 years and you have experience voice tracking, being an announcer. Like you can teach students like what it takes to work in the industry, right?
My problem with teaching, this is why I wouldn't be a good teacher, is if somebody's not giving me their time and their dedication, I start to tune out with what they're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so many times that I've given advice to a student and then they've treated it like it didn't matter and they didn't need it. And it's like, Yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. What do I know? And then I get like that, and I think it's because when you're in the studio, you react like that, and I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if I'd be the best teacher. I'm good when somebody wants to learn, but I can be a real asshole when they're just wasting everybody's time.
So you're saying you'd be better like having someone as an intern versus because you know
Yeah.
that person's more interested than teaching a class of students where 50-50 the chances of them staying in the program are,
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
man. Like you don't, and even with interns, not all interns are great. Like sometimes they start out really awesome and they're really eager, but this business beats the piss out of you. And I remember seeing I forget who it was, but they were an actor, and I think she was talking about how the reason you see so many addiction issues and stuff like that in theater community and the arts community in general is because the people that work in it are consistently and constantly dealing with rejection, because that is just part of the game. You're consistently being told no, you're consistently being told you're not good by people both in the industry that you're in and outside of the industry, because when you create art, it's out there for everyone to see. And then they get dismissive and they get insulting about what you're doing. And you have to deal with it because that's part of it. That's just part of it. And uh, you'll get an intern that will come in and they'll start out really eager, and then they'll send out a demo to a radio station for a gig, and they might not even get a reply. And then the next time you're like, so how's your demo? Oh, I don't know. I haven't really been working on it because of this reason. It's like, buddy, get used to it. Not everyone's. I have know for certain that I have sent out well over 1,000 demos in my career, and I maybe got 50 replies, maybe on the high end. I'd say 50 replies out of those 1,000 send outs,
Yeah, I
and
gotta
most
say
of those
something about
replies.
that too, because my friend and I have talked about that. And why do you think that a lot of like program directors don't make the time to even give you like the rejection? Like, is it taking too much time? Because
Um,
it's nice when you get a response, but
I can't speak it's per se for everybody, but there's a lot of factors at play. And when I'm saying I sent out demos, like I'm talking, I sent out like cassettes and CDs. That's how long we're talking here.
uh,
So maybe they get like the stack of CDs and then they just don't get to listen to it. Nowadays, it's so much easier to listen to a demo, but also the other edge is that these program directors aren't programming like a station anymore. They're programming a cluster. They're programming 2 or 3 stations, and they're dealing with announcers, and they're dealing with promo, and they're dealing with sales, and they're dealing with one thing after another, after another, after another. And it's just demanding, like
so you're
everything.
saying someone who has a smaller radio station, because those are the ones I've gotten responses from. Like, you
Generally
know what I
speaking,
mean?
they
And
have a lower, not they don't have a lower workload. I don't want to sound like I'm being demeaning to anybody that works in small market radio,
well, we're
but I
thankful
think,
for those because they gave you your start. You know what I mean?
yeah, they're dealing with. I would imagine that they're dealing with less client pressure and less sales pressure because they're more community involved. And there's not as many announcers at those stations anymore. They tend to have like a swing person or two, and then 2 or 3 day parts, and then that's it. And they'll have less on the go with the station, so they'll reply more readily. But then you have places that have like 4 or 5 clusters of small markets that have one program director overseeing everything. So it really is a situation to situation type thing. But I know that good programmers always take a day or two out of the month to go through demos and do what they can. And there's what is the like something to do with like luck is just consistency. The more consistent you are, the better luck you're inevitably going to have getting your tape in front of the right person at the right time. It's like a net. The bigger net you throw out, the more you're going to catch.
Right. So I guess I have to throw out more fish.
Yeah, or more nets
Oh,
into
more
more.
nets. Oh, actually, what did my mentor say? Throw spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks. So, like, I don't know how
Exactly.
much spaghetti I'm gonna have to throw at the wall, but
You
you
got
know.
to throw. Yeah, throw a lot of spaghetti. Got to
I
throw a
think that
lot of
goes with
spaghetti.
anything in life. If you're working in radio or any industry, it is competitive right now because of COVID-19, and the unemployment rate is very high right now. So that's some good advice. And I don't know. I guess since we're down to the wire, I just want to ask you any advice for people. I mean, because we're talking about radio and your experience in radio, because you've worked in radio for a very, very long time, Mr. Kennedy. So, what do you what I mean for people getting into radio now for 2020? Like, what do you say?
Um, well, if I would always suggest that you have a podcast on the go that is a reflection of what you want to do. Because you're going to have to do things professionally that you don't really want to do. And in a podcast is like adding to that workload. So make sure your podcast is a reflection of your skills in broadcasting, but is much closer to what your dream gig is. Also, if you want to be a great broadcaster, listen to great broadcasters. Like, just listen to what they do. And
And who
I
do you think is a great
Howard Stern.
broadcaster? Let's hear like who you think are some great broadcasters.
Stern. I'm a huge, huge Howard Stern fan, but I'm a huge Howard Stern fan, not so much even for his content, but for his execution and how he has evolved with the times. Howard Stern in the 80s was sex and buffoonery. Like,
Oh my God, I have to say something because you're on Q107 and
yeah,
I am the biggest fan of Psychedelic Sundays. I used to listen to that as a kid. And I don't know if that's the inspiration for me getting into radio, but I
Andy
was like,
Frost.
I love,
Andy Frost.
yes. And then when I met Andy Frost, I was like, oh my God. Andy Frost is at, because I intern at AM 640. So that was like exciting for me because I'm like, there's the voice.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't grow up in Toronto. I only knew Andy Frost from Psychedelic Sundays when it was like in syndication at like stations across the country. And so when I moved to Toronto and I met Andy, I met him. He was somebody who knew who I was before I walked in the door because he had voiced spots because I came in after him on Sunday nights in Winnipeg, and he had voiced my name before, and because it's a name, Fearless Fred, it stands out and you remembered it. And then when I was coming, he talked to people that knew who I was and was very welcoming to me. And one day, I had some friends that were here at the station, and we were doing a podcast interview about a comic book thing. And Andy was there, and he was watching the Leafs game. And my buddies Brian and Phil, huge Leafs guys. We walked by, and Brian's like one of those guys who's like cool as a cucumber. Nothing rattles him. But when he saw Andy Frost, he got like starstruck. And so we're walking by, and he's like, "That's just Andy Frost." I'm like, "Yeah, you guys want to meet him?" And they're like, "Oh my god, yeah." And so we went in, and I was like, "Andy, these are my buddies, Phil and Brian. They're big Leafs fans. They just wanted to meet you." And then he's like, "Hey, Phil. Hey, Brian." And we were just in the newsroom watching the game on TV, right? And then the Leafs scored a goal, and Andy on cue, goal from number 24. Like, he says it in the room, your Toronto Maple Leafs. And I almost saw Phil and Brian start crying. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
You know what? I was a fan of the Leafs, and like, you always remember the voice, and like, someone who's been doing this for so many years. And I remember even when they changed the Hockey Night in Canada theme
Yeah,
song.
they
Oh my
switched it
God.
all out.
Yeah.
That's what they do, man. That's the business. They want to own everything. They want to keep everything in house, so they own all the content.
Yeah.
And it's not like people dump on Rogers for doing it. It's not just Rogers. Every company does that. That's the way the business is going.
I guess we just have to embrace the changes that we can't control. It's all about a number. It's numbers. It's a numbers game. I don't care what anybody says.
You
If you're
watch the show
not,
Vikings?
yeah,
On the show Vikings, there's like a really poignant scene on that show. And one of the characters who was a Viking is now like, he's married into the French royal family, and some of the other Vikings think that he's lost his way and that he's not one of them anymore. And he has this line. He says, he goes, "Change is inevitable, and you need to adapt to it, or it will destroy you." And I have that line, and you're like, they're Vikings, but it's like he clearly sees what's going on. They've got to change, or they're going to lose. You know. And that's the way everything is. The world is always changing, and you can be reactionary and let it destroy you, or you can just adapt and move on, man.
yeah. I guess that's what we have to do with COVID-19. We have to,
100%.
yes, of course. And with that, I have to say, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. I have Fred Kennedy, Fearless Fred, even though, he's kind of like, I'm not really into Fearless Fred no more, but I'll embrace it, right?
That's right.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Fred, for your insight. I hope we can do this again. Are you down? Are you down?
Absolutely. Whenever you need me, just let me know. If I can make it work, I'll make it work.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight with Fearless Fred. Thanks for listening to Carlene Tonight.